Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with drdan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage counseling using the EFT method, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session in English or in French, and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMB Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found at lifecoach.drdanamzallag.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our second episode of Season 10, a very special guest and entertainer, author, and talk show host, Mss Francois. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Mss Francois, the floor is yours.
Hi, as Dr. Dan said, my name is Mss Francois. That's MSS for multi-talented and super sexy. I'm an entertainer. I host my own TV show. I'm an author of 2 books, and I also do comedic monologue. The whole point of my show is that I use humor to help others deal with their dysfunctional relationships.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today, Mss Francois. Now, tell me about your own personal experience. What brought you to become who you are today? I mean, we're talking about you being a talk show host, you being an entertainer, an author. So what was your own personal journey?
It's honestly, it's men and not being able to find that the love of your life, that ride or die, that I suck at relationships. I think I was just really bad at picking the men in my life. Oh, I summed it up to, when you look back now, is like low self-esteem and where you are and how you see yourself, and people treat you according to how you treat yourself. So honestly, I'm here because it was my way of trying to get over the hurt and pain of failed relationships.
And what do you feel is the common denominator in your personal experience that was making you fail in your relationship? Were the men not really up to your standards? Were you bossy? What brought you to that?
Well, I am bossy.
Okay. Okay.
I think back then it has to definitely do with low self-esteem. I didn't see myself as pretty or smart, or I didn't think I could get this particular person or that particular person. So I think my standards were low for myself. So therefore I picked people, nothing was wrong with them, but they were at that particular level, which I could have done so much better.
So
I could have had a Dr. Dan.
there you go, and I would be able to be there for the therapy part of it. So what really brought you to become the person that you are today when it comes to entertainer, when it comes to writing books? Now, do you write books about the personal experience in relationship, or what is the nature, the genre of your books?
Okay, so one book was having to do with showing other people how to start their own TV show by basically using the me in team, because everyone always say, oh, there's no I in team. But I believe in anything you do, you have to start with yourself. And after you start with yourself, then you could drag in or bring in a team or attract a team. The second book is called basically 5+ Ways to Get Over a Breakup. I titled it, Let That Beep Beep Man Go. But the beep beep is symbols for curse words,
Yes.
because it's basically you're frustrated and angry after that breakup, and the book is basically showing you different ways that you can help get over that breakup and move to the next chapter in your life. And as you said, how did I get even into that? Is a lot of times when you go through breakup, some people cry themselves to sleep. Maybe they eat, maybe they don't eat, or they drink, or whatever. They find ways of getting over that hurt or masking that hurt. I use humor, and since I use humor and it helped me, I decided to interject or put those things in the things that I do to help others laugh a bit.
So, but when you're in a situation where the love of your life, or the so-called love of your life, left you, or that there's a breakup, how can people look at things in a positive way? I mean, how can they put humor in that very traumatic experience?
First of all, why you gotta think that they left me?
Yes.
I left them. Thank you, Dr. Dan.
Yes. Okay.
Some people.
This is a fun thing. Of course.
So first of all, it is, I don't want anyone to think, oh, you just start laughing immediately. It's a slow process. And I mean, I have different things, different ways, because one size to me does not fit all. And we are all different people. But one of the things I think we have to slowly start to do, first of all, you should stay be in that particular area, be in that pain, feel that pain, or whatever the case might be. You're going to need time to cry, you're going to need time to scream and be sad and so forth and so on. But one of my first things I always tell people, after you've been there, you have to slowly start to detach, because we hold on to so many things, and it could be something simple as a picture, a gift, a movie ticket that you all went to. And if you keep holding on to these things, therefore you'll never even start to even begin to move slowly, because it's a slow process for some.
Okay.
So I don't want anyone thinking, oh, you get up in the morning and
Yeah,
like, ha ha ha, you're
that's
ready.
not gonna happen overnight. Absolutely not. So, is there like a specific process that you find to be the most successful when it comes to letting go of the past relationship and start moving forward? Now, you're talking about being self-aware of what caused the demise of the relationship. Now, because obviously a lot of people, Ms. Francois, I'm not sure if it's you or a lot of other people that you've coached, they all usually bring past mistakes into the present relationship because they have never really taken the time to analyze what caused the struggles in their existing relationship, and they bring it to the next one, and then the next one fails, and then they bring the same mistake again. So how do you detach yourself from making the same mistake over and over again?
First of all, I don't know why I keep talking about me, but
you see, this time I cut myself and I said, not you, but let's say other people you coach. Here you go.
Okay, those other people.
Yeah.
So this is my thing with baggage, right? I always like the fact that people say, oh, don't bring your baggage. So my thing is, don't bring maybe the 2 suitcase and the trunk. And so, but to me, no matter what, you're going to bring something. I try to say, just bring a purse, something you could swing over your shoulder into the next relationship. But I think what a lot of us do is we just blame the other person for everything, and we don't take responsibility for what we may have brought into that relationship and to help with the demise. And that's why I tell some people, you might be okay by yourself, but sometimes you might need a Dr. Dan, you might need a therapist, a psychologist to help you get to that next stage. And everyone is different. But I don't believe in, oh, never bring any baggage. You're going to bring something. We're hoping that what you do bring in that purse or that man bag is just something more positive into the next relationship, because you learn from the old one where you took some responsibility for.
So your show, Miss Francois Show, what do you specifically talk about? Do you talk about relationship in general? Do you talk about other aspect of someone's life? Where do you focus more your energy on to be able to help people transition from one relationship to the other?
So the first thing I like to say with my show, that it's only 30 minutes, and the first 5 minutes, it tends to be a comedian. And a lot of times the comedy is around relationships. So I always say, instead of you hearing me turning on and me going to a boring 2 minute spiel about relationships, you're going to get a chance to relax and laugh a bit. After you laugh, the other 24 minutes could be a variation of different things. It could be someone telling their personal story and how they got over it. Maybe that could help someone else. Also, I tend to have a lot of different panels. So I might have panel of men saying from a point of view of what they believe women want or what they believe men want. So it's different things. I also do, like, I might review a relationship book, like a Steve Harvey book, Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, review a movie. So it's different aspects, but it all comes back to relationships and show different point of views from relationship, but always add that humor in it to make you see it a different way.
Beautiful. Now, if let's say you could tell to our listeners, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people are either struggling with an existing relationship, either being in a toxic one, and a lot of people don't have that self-esteem, as you mentioned earlier, to be able to leave that relationship. So how would you guide them on a step-by-step process for them to be able to take their courage together and be able to leave the relationship and not really look back? Because the thing is, a lot of people, either they deal with a narcissistic person, either they deal with someone who's very controlling, someone who's whatever it is, and it's hard for them to let go of it. So what would you suggest to the listeners?
So this is what I would say. I'm not going to have no step by step and 5 steps and 3 steps. I don't fully believe in some of those steps, right? Because that's why I said someone could take the 3rd step and it work. But what have worked for me, I could tell you about my experience, right? Beside reading and all these different things and listen to people like Dr. Dan, I always tell people, confide in a confidant. And I always want to make people understand, confidant sound like a friend, but it's not a friend. I always try to separate. A friend is someone, say you have something in common with, we like swimming, we like tennis, we do that together, and you go home. That don't mean that person has to know every part of your personal life. But a confidant to me is someone who is there, they listen most of all. They're not quick to try to solve anything, because a lot of times when you're in pain, you want someone to listen, you want someone to hear you. You just want someone to not positive, just be there. So to me, once you can confide and honestly, truly let those emotions out to someone you fully trust, they're not going to talk to everybody, and someone that's going to be there for you, that's to me the one of the first part in healing. And after you talk it out, sometimes you could even figure out what it is that you need for that next step. And that's why a lot of times therapy does work. If you notice, if anyone have been to therapy, a lot of time they're not even telling you anything. You just get into talk, and have the time to repeat exactly what you say to help you see the light.
And that's what, psychotherapy is talk therapy, is where the person who's coming to see the therapist will discuss about the problem. And we do primarily reflective listening, which is we make sure to be able to understand what they said by paraphrasing those words, but we always allow the patient themselves to find a solution to their problem. Because of course, we are not living their experience. We're not experiencing it per se. So it's hard to be able to give them advice when it's not directly applicable to their situation, because we may perceive things differently. For example, for me, if let's say a relationship doesn't work, I will be the first one to be able to be blunt and tell the person that I am not happy. I'm sure that you're not happy. Let's part ways. But other people, they feel some kind of like magnet or this kind of glue that they have with that person. And even though this individual is very toxic and very dangerous physically, mentally, and whatever it is, they will still stay around because it reminds them of their relationship with their parent, uncle, friend, cousin, brother, whatever it is. And they're drawn to this kind of behavior. So that in itself, it changes completely the dynamic. So again, it cannot be really applicable to every situation, Ms. Francois. So
exactly.
it's really hard to be able to really pinpoint one specific situation or one specific solution for every cases that you actually address.
You sound like a doctor.
Well, yeah, that's more of a clinical perspective, Ms. Francois. So overall, when you see relationship as a whole, and especially now with this post-pandemic, okay, now people have experienced something completely different when it comes to either dating or relationship. Now, the dating part, obviously, because we're all in isolation, it was very hard for people to just swipe, meet that night, get together, do whatever they usually do, and then part ways. Now people have had more the time to get to know the person better, because now you don't really just go and meet. You knew that they were danger with the pandemic, so you kind of like get to know the person, have Zoom talk or have Zoom dinner, whatever it is. Now that we are past the pandemic, I hope so. How are people going on a date now? How is the transition that you have searched or that you have found? Is it better? Is it worse? Has people lost their ability to communicate? Has they lost their ability to socialize? What is your say?
I don't think people have lost their ability to communicate. I think people have communicated even more. And even because of the pandemic, people realize there's so much different ways to date compared to what it was before. So to me, entertaining those new ways and even the old ways, as in meeting up, to me has definitely evolved and even better. But then again, I remember it's different people. They have some people is so glad that most of the pandemic is past, that it could actually go back out and be able to date someone and touch someone, even have some one night stands. I'm just saying, I'm keeping it
Yes.
real, right, Dr. Dan?
Oh, yeah.
But to me,
Blanche, absolutely. This is the nature of the show.
but overall, for me, I think it has gotten better because just so much options now. You can't make up any excuses. What is an excuse to make up?
Oh, there's no excuses at this point. Okay, so that's the dating part. So let's go to the relationship part where people were stuck in a home for like a year and a half, and they get to know their spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend in a much deeper level. And now they realize that, oh boy, we have a lot of things that are not in common. We have a lot of differences. We have a lot of that. And we have seen a lot of people after this pandemic is over, that they start noticing that we're not a good match. So how is that, perceived by you or by other people that you have coached?
To me that was a great thing. I mean, the divorce rate climbed, but at the same time, it was a good thing. If you think back, I think even looking back, because it's been 2+ years we in this pandemic, so forth and so on. But why it is, we would basically like shadows in the night, two people passing, because this one work in the morning, you work in the evening. No one is even getting that time to spend proper quality time. When kids enter into the picture, your focus is on the child, and the love is there. But when you start to see people in different, like, you realize, I didn't like how he chewed that much. Oh my God, I think he snored louder than I remembered. Oh,
Yes.
I know what, her cooking is not even that good, because now she actually has to cook when I used to get lunch outside. So
Yes.
to me, people help you to see other people, but see yourself at the same time in a whole different light. So to me, some people save themselves from in a relationship. They could have been just there just because it was convenient and you somewhat settle. Now you realize, again, there's even more options out there. So to me, for all we know, we only have one life to live. So if that person is not for you, you realize it earlier than later,
Mhm.
and you move on. And now you have so many options to be able to date better, get to know better, get to know yourself better. So to me, overall, it has been a great thing in many ways. It's how you see certain things, it's
Yes.
your perception of
How you
things.
perceive the situation. Absolutely, Ms. Francois. So, for our listeners, what would you suggest when it comes to getting back into the dating scene? What thing they have to pay the most attention to when it comes to meeting new people? And as, of course, like our social skills has atrophied because we were like isolated for 2 years, so we do not know how to interact with people now face to face. It was easier online or virtually, but now when face to face, it's a bit different. So, what would you suggest them to be able to start really before jumping into a new potential relationship? What they should really focus primarily on?
First of all, I think people put too much, oh my God, the date, or how, what I gotta dress, I gotta brush my teeth twice, I gotta do this. My thing is, first of all, make it fun. And why not, instead of making a one-on-one, maybe suppose it could be some kind of group activity, because I have done those. I have so many sites like the meetup sites and different things. We all could go together and meet different people. I think we put too much effort on certain things, and you stress yourself out, especially since we're now going back into the world, as we say. So stop stressing yourself out, relax a bit, do some group activity. And to me, the number one thing is just have fun.
The having fun part, yes. And a lot of people, I think they lost the ability to understand what fun means. And that's the thing, because, okay, if let's say someone has been not dating for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, okay, because of the pandemic and other years beforehand, they just have lost the ability to be able to how to interact, and if they go on a date, they feel odd. They feel a bit
Mm,
like, I'm not in my element, and my element
right.
is being alone. So it's hard for to transition, as you mentioned in the beginning of your podcast, or the podcast here. It's hard to transition into normalcy, because what normalcy is to be able to interact with other people instead of being isolated. So now that this pandemic is over, it's kind of like re-educating people on how to be normal.
But I think also people are so busy beating up themselves. Like, it's like, relax, breathe. It meant, know what? Do some meditation.
Yes.
Just
I always encourage that. Absolutely. I always encourage that. So, overall, when it comes to your own experience in dating, are you now in a relationship? Are you now still looking for that knight in armor, whatever it is, or
the White House and all that
yeah.
stuff. So I am in a relationship, and it's funny, not being in a relationship for so long. When you're finally in one, people think, oh, it's perfect, it's over, the search is over, we're all happily ever after. And I always say, life is not a Disney movie. When the curtain closes, you don't know what happens to Cinderella and her prince and the kids, so forth and so on. So even me being in this relationship as I am now, I am still learning so much about that person and myself. And I think the number one thing that I am learning to do is just continue to be patient with myself and the process.
When you say patient with yourself, do you feel that you have certain attributes that has caused some struggles with your past relationship? Or when you say patient, in which aspect were you patient with?
Because for me, when I meet you today, by tomorrow you should decide you love me, and by Wednesday or Thursday you should decide what ring we're getting. So
Good enough.
And that could be attributed to different things. Remember, you still bringing something from your past relationship. So I've been in a 7-year relationship and that equal to nothing. So now you switch from, okay, I don't want to spend another 7 years. So this one should be within 6 months. And age enters into that factor. I'm a female. Am I going to have enough eggs? Like to have kids? So it's so many things now compared when you were 16 to 25 and you hold hands, you went to the movies and ate McDonald's and you thought life was beautiful. You have you have so many different responsibilities. So it's so many things going on in your mind when you decide to have someone now new in your relationship. Remember, me being by myself, I could get up and do whatever I want. No one I have to talk to and tell anything to. Now I actually have to say, oh, I'm leaving the house. That's not your business.
Yeah, that's so true. But now that you are older and more mature, are you set on your ways for certain things that you were not, that you were?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. That was a quick answer, even before I even finished the question.
Definitely set in a lot of ways. And I think it has to do, me with the person that I'm with now has to do with a lot of communication. And people always think, oh, communication is easy. That stuff is hard because a lot of times when you're communicating, the number one thing you do is when that person is talking, you're not even listening, but you're ready to answer and you're ready to defend. And I'm always think someone is coming for me. So I'm always ready to fight verbally because I can't fight physically. I have no skills.
Okay. So has that caused a lot of issues, you answering or you interjecting the conversation before the person has to finish?
I'm going to cut you off to show you how I do it.
Yes. Okay, go ahead, please.
See, but I pause.
Oh, yeah,
So in my present relationship, it has had some issues. But that's why I'm saying I'm being more patient with myself, pausing, I am listening more and trying to understand what that person is saying instead of me just jumping in there. So it has caused some friction, but it's a good thing that it did because I'm learning still. We're always learning, we're always growing, and I'm learning more about myself. Even if this doesn't work out, I still know I learn something more for the next one, but don't tell him this, okay?
No. We will. That's for sure. So overall, if let's say you would summarize your experience and what you teach others, what would be the best gift that you will give to our listeners in terms of how do they need to see themselves in their next relationship? Now, I know this is a very broad question, Ms. Francois, but something that they could at least take with them after this podcast.
Okay, this is going to sound somewhat cliche, but it's honestly learning yourself, getting to know yourself, getting to love yourself. And that could be different things for different people. I'm into health. So I make sure my, this is 5'5", brown eyes and caramel complexion, total perfection. I have learned to love that side of me. And once you love yourself enough, then it's easier for other people to love you. So put you first.
Yes, being selfish is crucial, especially
yes.
and we see a lot of people focusing too much on making other people happy at the expense of their own happiness. So we see that they completely change in the favor of the other person, and that behavior feeds the other person to become even more narcissistic because they feel they have a full control over that person. So that's something to be really, really cautious about. And a lot of people just forget who they are as an individual. And when they leave the relationship, they feel that they leave with nothing. They leave like the person have taken everything from them. They have nothing left. And because of that, this distrust that they create, they bring it to the next relationship. And then that next relationship gets the wrath of that woman because of all the abuse that she went through. And they never really had the chance to heal. So that's something.
Amen, Dr. Dan. Amen.
Amen to that, my dear Miss Francois. Well, first, that's all the time that we have for today's podcast. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of our busy schedule to join us, and thank you again for participating and inspiring our many listeners with your incredible story. Now, we hope that you all enjoyed today's episode. I'm also very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for season 10 of the Happiness Journey podcast, filled with inspirational stories, just like the one that you listened today with Mss Francois Show. Now, here are some concluding words of wisdom. Being selfish has nothing to do with focusing on yourself. To be able to help others, you must first serve yourself. How can you make people happy if you aren't satisfied with yourself? How can you offer much of anything if you have nothing left to give, if you're a sort of person who provides to others? Before you can consider selflessness, you must first learn to focus on your own well-being. Figuring out how to achieve happiness from inside is the secret to happiness. This is the first step on the path to a successful voyage. The truth of the matter is that you'll always encounter individuals who want you to forget about yourself and concentrate on them. Learn to be aware of your own requirements. Ignore their requests since everything revolves around them. You must understand that self-interest in your mental health should be first priority. After you focus on your own well-being, any time you have left, if any, may be shared with others. My name is Dr. Ddanamzallag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life.